I still don't have a solution to when the live stream actually goes live, because my thing right now says I'm not live, but I know I'm live. But I don't know exactly what that moment is. I still haven't solved that problem, so I'll have to come up with some kind of clever solution to that. I'm not sure what that will be. If you guys have a clever solution, by all means do share. I would love to know what that is. All right, my friends. Well, I am Ron Howell from UnitedTaps.com. This is Live at 11, coming to you weekdays at 11. That's the name, Live at 11. Today we're going to do our tap tip, and I'm going to be focusing on what I call a Hinds riff. I've also heard it called a split riff. If you have another name that you use for this step, or know of another name that is commonly used for this step, please put it either in the chat or in the comments below. I always love to learn new names for steps, and that's this guy. Now I call it the Hinds riff after Gregory Hinds, for whom it seemed to be a signature step. It would show up in his performances fairly often, and it's a cool step. So first of all, why don't we just go ahead and break it down? Well, hello, Carson. Good to see you. So I'm going to actually go from this angle. I think it's going to be a little more helpful. So the right foot is doing a riff. The left foot is going to do a pull. Then you land the front foot with a dig and the back foot with a step. So we have riff, pull, dig, step. Riff, pull, dig, step. I'm going to do that again. Riff and pull, dig, step. And then, of course, at real speed, it all just kind of rolls. Digga-digga-da, 1 and a 2. All right, I'll do that again. Now, some people do go to the toe in the back instead of the step. That's extremely common, which you can do as well. So either way, but that's like the traditional version that I do. Again, I call that a Hinds riff. Okay, so now let's talk about our tech tip. What do, at least in my experience, what do I find students struggle with? Well, almost universally, when they're first learning it, they have a significant delay between the riff and the pull. Like that, right? So they kind of crunch the riff, and there's a big pause, and then there's the last 3 sounds. Okay, so how do we fix that? Well, first of all, we can talk about the crunching of the riff, where those first 2 sounds are just too close together timing-wise. And we have a multitude of strategies to fix that. And some are related to other strategies. We can add a slight bit more pressure to that first sound, which kind of delays the timing of the second sound. Another thing we can do is adjust the attack angle of the foot. So if my foot is pretty much parallel to the floor and I riff, those sounds are going to mush together. If my foot is more at a 45-degree angle, I'm going to get a little bit more separation. So what I can do is take my foot at a 45-degree angle and add just a tiny bit more pressure to that first sound, and those 2 things in combination are going to give me more separation, so I don't get this, but I get this. You can hear a significant difference. A third strategy, and this is closely related to attack angle, is to start the riff a little further back. And what this does is it naturally forces your foot to be at a steeper angle. All right, so that as well. You could do all 3, attack angle, starting further back, and adding pressure to that first sound to get separation. Now, I don't go as far as to say do the first sound of the riff on your toe. There are some teachers that will approach it that way to ensure you get separation between those. Ultimately, though, when you want to go like really fast, I guess you can do that. It's really hard to go from the toe to there. And commonly, the riffs are not commonly done from the toe. I think that is just an approach that some teachers have taken to get them to separate. But being that I'm giving you these 3 other strategies, pressure, attack angle, and starting position further back, you shouldn't need to go to the toe. You should be able to use those strategies to solve that problem. So that'll solve our riff problem. Now, what do we do about that big delay? Now, clearly, they need to start the pullback sooner. But just saying, hey, start the pullback sooner, that doesn't work. Well, sometimes, but a lot of times it doesn't work. And the student will be like, we'll even say, I'm trying. Like, I promise, I am trying to do the pullback sooner. It's just not happening. Okay, great. So how do we approach that? Well, there is a mental trick that I have had great success with. And that what I tell the students is this. I want you to tell your feet, I want you to tell your foot that does the pullback, I want you to tell it to do the pullback at the same time you do your riff. I want them to happen at the same time. So your brain is going to say, do it all at the same time. The riff and the pull. Now, do we really want them to be at the same time? Of course not. But what's happening right now is their brain is telling the pullback to go right after the riff. So here's the riff, and here's the pull. That's what their brain is saying, but guess what's actually happening? Riff, the pullback's happening here. Their brain is saying do the pullback here, but it's not happening till here. So we're going to say, hey, brain, tell the pullback to happen at the same time, and guess what? We know it's going to be late, but it's going to be late right in that exact spot that we want it. And so I literally just did this, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, with a student, had this exact problem, and I said, okay, do both at the same time. And after a couple tries of failing that, it happened. It's like, boom, everything happened in the right spot by her thinking about doing the pullback at the same time as the riff. Knowing, of course, the reason we do that is we know the pull's going to be late. Now, if you start getting to the point where they're happening at the same time, it's almost impossible to do. Right? Then you can start saying, okay, well, stop thinking at the same time and start thinking about it coming later. But if you're thinking about it coming later exactly where it's supposed to go and it's always late, guess what? That doesn't work. You need to change where your mind says it should happen and make that earlier, knowing that it's probably going to be later than what your mind says, and we can get that in the right spot. So that is my tap tip of the day for how to separate the riff in the Hinds riff, the riff portion of the Hinds riff, and also how to get that pullback to happen sooner so you don't have that problem. All right, excellent. Now let's move on to our new step of the day. And when I say new, I just mean it's new to me. I have not seen it or done this before. I'm literally going to make it up on the fly because I just think it's fun. I like doing things I haven't done before, creating something I haven't created before. Not saying someone else might have done it, but I haven't done it. It's just fun and interesting. Like, that's one of the most fun, interesting, and exciting parts of tap dance to me, by far. Like, by a lot. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do. So let's just jump in. Right? And one of the cool things is I never know what's going to happen. Like, I just don't know what's it going to be. I don't know. You don't know. None of us know. It all has to kind of unfold as we go. You know, it'd be interesting is to do something, not a Hinds riff, obviously, but something with that kind of a feel to it. I'm not sure how I would do that, but that would be fascinating, I think. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. That's interesting. Oh, that was not so good. Boom, boom. It's time to get the flow. All right, so that's interesting. So I'm doing a left heel and a right toe same time, then spank toe. So I'm on both toes for a short period of time. Spank toe, and then doing left heel and right dig at the same time, and then a step stand to sort of reset. 1 and 2 and 4, 5 and 6 and 8. 1 and 2 and 4, 5 and 6 and. I'm wondering if it looks more interesting when I straighten the legs at the end of the first part. Out. Or I'm sure that probably looks better than bend. Yeah, I'm sure the straight looks better. It's not. It's less comfortable for sure. But I'm pretty sure that one looks better. Right? So there's your, for me, new step of the day, something I haven't seen before and I haven't done before. That's fun. That's kind of fun and interesting to create. I enjoyed that. Welcome, Parker. Well, thank you. Parker says that is so cool. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. And Darce Cabins is here. Good to see you. Good morning to you. She says good morning. All right, excellent. So if you do have any questions, suggestions, or anything like that you want to put in the chat, pop it in now. And while you're doing that, I'm going to get the music going, and we'll do a short tap session. I don't even know. I still don't know exactly what to call it. It's sort of like a practice session, although I'm not hammering in. Well, sometimes it varies. Sometimes I'll really hammer in on a specific step, and I'll do it slow, and I'll really just do something very plain and simple and try to improve it. And other times it's more about doing an interesting pattern. So there's quite a bit of variability, and I haven't nailed it down. And right now I kind of like that it's flexible. So if I want to drill down and just be hitting step heels, you know. So that, and by the way, whenever I'm doing whatever I am doing, I am always highly analyzing what are my feet doing and how exactly do they sound, and is this sound too weak, is this sound too early, and almost always there are flaws. And in general, I'm trying to get any and all flaws reduced below the level of 5%, meaning any given sound that is off time is only off time at off time an amount of 5% or less. So if a sound is too early, the maximum amount early it can be for me is 5%. If it's less than 5%, I'm fine. If it's over 5%, it needs to fix it. Now, you would say, well, why are you accepting 5% imperfection? Why aren't you trying to make it 100? Well, ideally, yes, I would like it to be 100. The reason that I accept a 5% error rate or lower is for practical reasons. If I don't accept a 5% error rate or lower, then I would literally, I could do like step heels for hours and hours and hours. Now, the top of the top of the top, they'll do that, and that's why they're the top of the top of the top. I'm not the top of the top of the top, and for where I am in my tap life, I am not interested in burning through step heels for 3 hours, 5 hours, however much it takes until my error rate is 1% or less. Even the top is going to have some error rate. Like we can record their sounds and load them in a computer and have the computer analyze the timing of their sounds, and they're going to have an error rate because they're human. And that error rate, honestly, is probably going to fluctuate anywhere from like 1% to 3 or 4%. Maybe it's as high as 5%. I don't know. May depend on the day. Some days we have better days and some days are worse. But anyone's going to have some error rate. The question is, what error rate is acceptable to you? And for me, 5% or less is acceptable. And part of this was done from, I did some work on a computer some time ago where I recorded some sounds and then I moved sounds, X%. When I move them 10%, it's pretty obvious. Like even to someone who's not trained, if a sound is 10% off, I found someone else, even a regular person can tell that. But less than that, and it gets harder for a regular person to be able to tell, hey, that sounds off. Now, someone with musical training, yes, they're going to know, but a regular person who doesn't have that training, not so much. So my thought is, okay, if 10% is like sort of somewhat the cutoff for an untrained ear, then if I cut that in half and I go at 5%, even if I'm at my worst, which is 5% error rate, well, obviously I have worse than that, but that's what I'm shooting for. Even if I was hitting that 5% error rate, most people aren't going to be able to tell. It's going to sound mostly good to most of the people most of the time, and for me, that's an acceptable place to aim for. So when I'm listening, now the truth is, look, if I do something 3% off, do I hear it? Yeah. Does it bother me? Yeah. Do I still want to fix it? Yeah. But at least with my student, I guess I'm trying to think. Well, maybe I have I might be a little harder on myself and not quite go with 5%. But with my students, at least the 5% is the cutoff. If it's 5% or better, hey, we're good. Let's move on. Otherwise, no one would take from me. They would be like, well, Rod, all we're doing is step heels all day, every day until we get that error percentage, and that's all we would do for weeks, or shuffles or whatever, So that's. I'm shooting for less than 5%, although I notice if it's a 3%, and I'll still try to fix that. It bothers me. But anyway, the point is, when I'm doing all this stuff, I'm listening every time. Now, sometimes I'll move on to the next step, and my error rate for the previous step was not below 5%. It was like 10%. And that's just a question of where I am now is like, well, I don't want to spend 45 minutes on just that step. I want to get it to as low of an error rate as I can. And I balance that with just boredom and tedium. At some point, it's too tedious to just drive that step again and again and again. And again, the top of the top will do that, and that's why they're the top of the top. For where I am, I'll push it to a certain point, but after that point, I'm like, whatever. Now, even that, some people watching will be like, Rod, just move on. Like, stop doing that step over and over and over and over again. When there's sometimes where it's just like, no, I want to get it. Even if I can't get it to the 5%, maybe my error rate's 10%, I at least want to get it down to 7.5 or 7 or whatever. Lower it to so it doesn't sound so intensely gross. And then sometimes I just don't care that much. I'm just like, that was interesting, but I'm moving on. I'm not as interested in mastering that pattern that I just did. It was interesting, it was a challenge, but I'm ready to go on. So that's my thought process when I'm doing this. Carson Carson asks, could you walk when you do that? I don't know what you mean, could you walk when you do that, Carson? Were you referring to that this guy? Could you walk when you do that? Meaning, could I travel it forward? So if you can clarify, I'll be happy to answer that, Carson. It's 2 o'clock where I live. So he's like, yeah, it's not morning there. Dark Cabins must be on my time. She said it's 11 a.m. here. Well, it's a little bit after, but that's because I've been talking. Carson, nice. Sharon's at 1. So we got the full time spectrum. I need some people like from Italy and Spain and everywhere, so that we have like the full. That'd be cool if we had like the full time time zone spectrum. That would be kind of interesting and fun. Yeah. So if you like, can I walk it? Can I just move it forward? Yeah, I would just probably not pull pull back as far. And it would really be a function of just making, instead of the step stamp here, is keeping the step here and then step stamping forward, right? I almost forgot what I did. Yeah, I mean it's not comfortable, and not to saying that doesn't, comfort isn't the criteria by which a step should necessarily be judged, although having it not be completely uncomfortable is helpful. Moving that forward is really, it's already a little bit awkward and uncomfortable as is. Moving forward is almost more so. I'm wondering if moving side, that'd probably be a little bit more reasonable. The problem with moving side, though, is then the audience doesn't get the visual of this. Like, this is not exciting from the front. I'm not saying it's super exciting for the side, but I think it's more interesting. So maybe if you did like a combination of yeah, like probably a side to front, because then you've got a body directional change. It's hard to go back into it, but that's good. That's a challenge. Yeah, that's probably going to give you the optimal feel. And actually moving it backwards / sideways is much more natural, at least for me. That's pretty rough. That's like a 15 to 18% error rate. But I was just doing it plain to do that. I'm not going to stand here and master that. I'm just not excited. I mean, it's interesting and fun, but I'm not excited enough that, okay, I want to perfect that. I'm for sure going to use that in whatever. That was just like, oh, that's new and different. That's fun. That's cool. All right, let's move on. Okay. Look, and Carson says, yeah, looks nice. I would think. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's another interesting. We talked about this the other day when I talked about choreography, of videoing and whatever you're choreographing and then watching it back, and all of that. You heard me talk my process out loud of, okay, well, let's moving it this way, so it doesn't work, but then maybe moving it here is more natural, but then we're not going to have the visual. And part of that is just, I went through a period where I was doing a lot of, I would create something, watch it back on video, create something, watch it back on video. And one of the biggest things I noticed is, wow, Rod, it's just boring. Like, what you did is boring. It's not interesting. Like, if I was doing this all front, what I just did was this, it's like when I watch that, it's like there's nothing there. And so after doing that enough times, if I take the time, here's the problem, I don't always take the time to do it. If I take the time to really think about, how is the visual aspect of this, if I take the time to think about it, I'll notice all these things where I'm like, hey, that's probably boring. Let's do it this way, and the step stamp works this way. Then we've got the directional changes. And in general, contrast is interesting. So we have the contrast of wide and side and narrow in front, and that dynamic changing as well. All right. Carson said it's kind of like a moonwalk. Not to me, but if you see that, that's cool. That's all good. That's all good. Jesse, hi there, people. Well, hello, Jesse. And Jesse says hello to Carson. So, and okay, it's like a big family now. Everybody's saying hello to everybody else. That's fantastic. Good. I'm getting some regulars. It's fantastic. All right, so now it's time. Oh, well, you know what I wanted to ask you? And Sharon says hi. Well, hello, Sharon. Yesterday I adjusted the volume, but when I played back the video after I had recorded it, it still was distorting with the music in my tapping. So let's do this live. So I want to do some loud tapping, and will you tell me if it distorts or does not distort? that distorting or does it sound okay? So because with you here, I'll dial it in live. Now I can always play it back, but it would be nice to fix it beforehand. Welcome, Jesse. So if any of you in the chat, and I know there's a lot of you in the chat, can tell me how is the sound on that? Is it distorting? Is it distorting or does it sound fine? Because once we do that, then I'm going to do another test with music and we're going to find out how that sounds. So now it's gonna give me feedback on the sound. I mean, it's fine. I'll just move on and play the music. I can check it after. I just thought, since you're all here, someone could give me feedback on the sound. And no, okay, so that's fine. I'll jump to music, and maybe someone will pop in some points about the sound. Okay. Today I'm going to be tapping to Mango Salsa Remix from my Phoenix Remixed album, which you can get at unitedtaps.com. I like this one. It's a fun song. All right. And for those of you who are joining me, I don't know if you've joined me before, Jesse. I just put a song on repeat, and I just do whatever. So whatever happens is whatever happens. Sometimes I'll drill down on a specific step and do it like 3 million times. And other times I'll just do a pattern, and I won't even get the pattern down. It'll still be terrible, and I'll be like, okay, I'm moving on. So... It's kind of... Darce Cabin says it sounds good to me. All right. Oh, Sharon says maybe some distortion. All right. So, okay, great. All right, so we got some feedback. Thank you. All right, then I'm going to lower the volume, and we're going to try it again. My concern is if I take the mic down too low, that my voice is going to be really quiet. That you're going to lose my voice. So I'm going to drop it down a little more, and so we'll do another round. Question. It's the stamps, the really loud ones where I found it was distorting when I played it back. So we'll call this round 2 and see if it's distorting or has my voice now dropped so much that it's like I can hardly hear you. I have to turn it really high to hear your voice, but then when you tap, it's crazy loud. There are sophisticated electronics to deal with that. I don't have those. It's called a compressor. So the compressor will take those really loud volumes and bring them down, and it'll take those softer volumes and bring them up. So they're all in kind of like a middle range. But those are moderately expensive. So Sharon prefers the voice louder, even with a little bit of distortion. Now I could talk louder. I don't want it to sound like I'm shouting at you. So ideally we'll find a sweet spot where you can still hear my voice, but that the tap volume doesn't distort. That would be the holy grail. That would be what we're going. So the question is though, is my voice okay now, or is it too low compared with tapping? All right, so I've got 2 people now. Darce Cabins also agrees that she prefers it with the voice louder, even if maybe the footwork distorts. Yeah, okay, got it. All right. All right, so I just brought the mic back up, so hopefully you can hear my voice better now, which means I'll try to bring the music down and my tapping down lighter, which is really hard for me. I'm just a loud tapper. I always have been. So I'll see what I can do on that. I mean, the idea is I just want to film through this. I don't want to have to film separately and edit it and upload it. Like for the last several sessions, I just use this feed. But yeah, but then we have this audio issue. So ideally we would solve the audio issue. I don't tap, but I can sing. That's awesome, Jesse. All right, fantastic. I'll get started. But as I'm going, if you want to put your comments about the sound, it sounds good with the music or it's distorting with the music or whatever, that would be helpful. pause. How is sound for that? Is it distorting? Where are we sound-wise for that? I'll give you a minute to reply as I figure out my next little thingy here. So I need to be turned out. That's wrong. Spank, heel, blow. Dig, toe, blow, spank, heel, blow. That's difficult. Okay, I'll keep rolling. Here we go. got one good rifle. And not another. So bad. So bad, man. I just want one. Go through the toe and the heel. I just want one good one of those. Oh mercy. I'm getting like 1 more centimeter each time. George, this is all you're getting. No dress shoes, no dress socks. This is all you get. This is it, man. You can ask for years to come. This is what I'm tapping in, my friend. That's it. Bless your heart. That's it. I notice when I'm doing right foot for that, which is fairly good. What I notice when I'm like analyzing my feet is that foot is very rolled into the inside of the tap. Now, in general, I shuffle slightly on the inside of the tap, and the reason I do that is to prevent something I call smacking. It's not an official term, it's just what I call it. When you do a shuffle and you hit the entire ball tap, when the spank sound comes in, if that ball tap hits flat, you get an extra loud sound. And the problem with that is if I'm going to at a medium or fast speed, with that spank sound being louder than all the rest, even if I'm technically executing a perfectly straight rhythm that's perfectly even, it will sound less even or uneven because of the great disparity in volumes. I'll demonstrate. Right, so that sounds, to me, that sounds really, really, really gross. It sounds super, super, super choppy. Now, is it because it's not technically even? In other words, if I loaded this into my computer and I had it analyze the sounds and the timing of the sounds, are the sounds going to be drastically off? I'm sure they're somewhat off because I don't usually shuffle like that. But they're not. I don't think they're going to be terribly off. I think what it is just the disparity in volume that makes them sound more off than they are. Whereas normally I will shuffle very slightly on the inside so that it sounds very even volume-wise. And then if I want to put an accent in, I can choose that and put it where I want it. And I can put it in how I want it and where I want it, versus it just happening every single time and sounding really to me. So anyway, so I naturally shuffle on the inside, and what I noticed is when I was doing these guys, is that I was maybe further on the inside than I normally am. The rule I have for my kids is simple. When I don't teach this at the younger age. I teach this more around the intermediate, or if I have an advanced beginner who's really got their shuffles down and it's easy for them and they're borderline getting bored, then I'll introduce this technique of slightly angling in on the shuffle. But all I tell them is you just need to be able to get your pinky under the outside. That's it. Because any more than that, and then it can start to look weird. Now in this case, the step's already weird because I'm landing on the dig. So I have a little bit more freedom. But anyway, as I was mentioning, I was going pretty far on the inside. On here, I was hardly going inside at all. So going on to my left foot, I was trying to imitate my right foot. And this is a general strategy for tap dancers out there. I know I should put the tap tips in the front, but this is just coming to mind. Very often I will use this strategy is when my right foot can do something but my left foot cannot, I will do it on my right foot and analyze what is my right foot doing. You know, where is the weight on my foot? What are my toes scrunching? Are they relaxed? Are they angled in? Are they lifting up? Am I lifting my knee higher? I find out what are all the mechanics happening over here, and then I'll switch to the left and be like, are those mechanics the same? Am I putting pressure in the same spot? Am I aiming, like if it's a scuffle, maybe I'm aiming my dig further out on the right and not as far on the left, or vice versa. Whatever it is, I'll jump back and forth. Here's right foot and here's left foot, and mentally comparing each side, and whatever this side is doing, assuming this is the good side, I will try to readjust that left side to match it. So that's an effective strategy. And anyone, that strategy is effective for all levels. Like even if you're a rank beginner and you're just starting out, you can use that strategy if your right foot is good and your left foot is bad, or vice versa. Your left foot's good is bad. You can go from the good foot to the bad foot back and forth and analyze what's different, adjust the bad foot to match the good foot. So that's what I did here. And this side is not as fast, but it was better than it was like before I started doing that. So it gave me at least a moderate boost. Doris Cobbin said that's how I was taught on the side. Like on the inside, but that's overall that seems relatively rare. I don't come across a lot of tap dancers who have been trained to do it slightly on the inside. My teacher, Greg Russell, he explained that concept to me, although I don't remember his reasoning being the same as mine. I feel like he learned that from Debbie D, and the driver behind that one was shading, like different volume levels and different sound dynamics depending on where you hit on the tap. And it's true, you'll get a different sound, and I am getting a different sound than when I just smack it. But mine is not Mine is more about preventing badness than creating more sophisticated stuff. And I'm not saying, ultimately, yes, the creating the more sophisticated stuff based on the different tones you get from the different part of the taps. That would be the ultimate aspiration. But when I'm working with students, my primary my primary focus is let's just not sound bad. Let's start by not sounding bad. And when you've mastered that, then we can play with, going on the outside and the inside and different parts. Or like I was saying, going from here, and then I can pop that accent by hitting the whole tap. Like then we can get more sophisticated. But let's get away from just bad choppiness to a bass level. But like I said, that's cool, Darth Cabins, that you were taught that way. But I feel like that's somewhat rare out there. Yeah, sorry. So I'm gonna keep. It's noon. I should end it. All right. I am going to wrap it up because I've got lots of other stuff to film today. Thank you all for joining me. It's like we're getting kind of like a solid crew here that shows up roughly every day or most days, and hopefully that'll build. This is kind of fun. I am thinking about asking some other people to jump in with me, just to see how that goes. I think it might be interesting to have another person, another perspective. Yeah, so I'm not there yet, but I'm moving towards that. But I've got, but originally when I started this, I wasn't even sure we were going to do it every day, and so I've been roughly consistent, fairly consistent every day. So I think that's going to continue, and then I may bring some other people in if they're willing. Yeah, I just kind of do whatever. Come join. I know it's still a very open format. All right, and again, if you have any questions, comments, you can either put them in the chat or put them in the comment section below, and then I can address them in new episodes. Also, unitedtaps.com, so we've got full lessons series, not just a single lesson or 2 lessons or 1 or 2 hours. They're like 12 hours, 13 hours, 28 hours. These are full lesson series. It's like, oh, hey, you're going to learn the beginner level. Let's teach you all the steps in the beginner level, a whole set of steps, and let's go slow, and let's break them down, and let's actually practice them, and then put them into combinations so you can build your skill level. You're not just like thrown to the wolves like, well, here's 1 hour of some steps, you should know what you're doing. No, nobody learns like that. So the lessons are very logical, and they progress you slowly and carefully through step by step by step, and building into combinations and so forth. Also have choreography, full-length choreography, beginner, advanced beginner, intermediate, advanced, and advanced. So basically all levels. They have arm movements and head movements. They also, many of them have group options where, half of the dancers are doing one thing and the other half of the dancers are doing the other thing, so it makes it more dynamic if you have a group. Those dances are labeled group options. We also have a huge tap dictionary and syllabus that has video breakdowns of 315 steps and 2 sets of notes. One set of notes has them all in alphabetical order, so if you're looking for cramp roll, you go down and find C, hey, there's our cramp roll. And the other set of notes has everything in syllabus order. So it's like, hey, you're teaching a beginner class for the first time, you've never taught beginner class, so what should I teach first and second and third, and what is the order? Here is the exact step order I teach them in, and if you get my lessons, guess what? The order I teach in the lessons matches the order in the syllabus, so all of my content pretty much works together that way. So that is our tap dictionary and syllabus, again, video breakdowns plus notes of 315 steps. And then I thought, hey, let's do practice combinations, roughly 32 counts, practice combinations for all of those steps. Because it's one thing to be able to do a step. It's an entirely different thing to be able to put that step in the context of a combination, to do steps before it, go into that step, and then go into steps out of it. That is a different skill than just mastering the step. And so I have the practice 315 practice combinations. It's on video from behind. You also get, again, 2 sets of notes. One set of notes has all of them in alphabetical order. So if you're looking for cramp roll combination, you go down to C, here's the cramp roll combination. Or if you're, okay, here's level 1, here's the first step I need to teach them from there. Now I need to put that into a short, simple combination. That's a level 1 combination. Well, there we go. Or here's a level 7 step. I need a level 7 combination. Well, we've got a level 7 combination for that step. This is super, super helpful and convenient for teachers. And if you are a student, it's an awesome way to practice learning new combinations. One of the things I was absolutely terrible at growing up was picking up new combinations. I was awful. I was like the slowest person to get the stuff, and half the time I didn't get the stuff. It was frustrating. I kind of hated combinations. I was just awful at them. And the only way you get better is by learning new ones again and again and again. Because each time you learn a new combination, you're putting the steps in a different order in your brain. And after doing that in so many different variations, you get to the point where you can put them in any order. Just like when you speak, you can put words in any order. I can say, you know, the dog fell down the stairs, or the stairs were taller than the dog. I can reverse the order of words. I don't even have to think about it. Well, why? Because I use words in different combinations every single day, right? So when you put steps in different combinations every single day with practice 315 product, you have 315 different combinations. Now, it's somewhat hard, so you might just be working on the first 37, but 37 is a good number. That's plenty to get you started. Putting those steps in all those different combinations makes it so that when you come across a new combination you haven't experienced before, you have a better chance at getting it, just because your mind is more flexible at mixing and matching and putting these things together in different orders. So that is our practice 315, and you can get the TAP dictionary and the practice 315. You can get them as a deal. It's called the 315 deal. We also have like what I call large deals. So let's say you're at the beginner level, you're just starting out, and you're like, give me everything you got, Rod. Give me everything you got. We have a large beginner deal. So what are you going to get? You're going to get all 12 of our beginner lessons. That's a full lesson series that's going through all the steps in our level 1 syllabus. You're going to get the complete 315 TAP dictionary and syllabus, so you have that for quick reference. Now you may say, why would I need that? If the lessons are teaching me how to do the steps, why do I need the dictionary? Okay, there's two reasons. Number one, sometimes you want to look up a step fast. You don't want to be like, okay, so the cramp roll, was that, okay, I think that's lesson 3, and where in the video? It's going to take you 10 minutes to find where it was in the video. Whereas you go over the TAP dictionary, cramp roll, C, boom, oh, step, heel, got it. All right, I'm ready to go. You can look it up in like 1 second. So it's super helpful for that. Also, you know, eventually you're going to get past that beginner level, and you're like, what's next? Or you'd be like, I've mastered the regular cramp roll. Is there a harder version of the cramp roll? Oh yes! There's like 20 harder versions of the cramp roll, all different ones. So when you get bored with that regular cramp roll, we've got a whole lot of other cool ones in store for you that are a little bit more challenging and interesting and different and fun. So that's another thing that's really cool about the dictionary and the syllabus. All right, so you get the lessons, you get the dictionary syllabus, you get a workout. That's for the beginner level. That's 22 minutes nonstop tap dancing, and again, it goes with everything else. In that workout, we cover all those level 1 steps that you're learning from the syllabus, that you're learning in the lessons. So it's all reinforcing each other, which is great. The more ways you encounter the different steps, the better, right? The better. Each one is reinforcing and reinforcing. So you get that workout, which is, hey, New Year's is coming up. I know a bunch of you are like, all right, New Year's resolution, man. I'm getting into shape. I'm gonna start tap dancing. That's great. That workout will make you sweat because it's nonstop. We just tap and tap and tap solid for 22 minutes. Now you may not think that 22 minutes, right? That's not that much. You get going with me in the video, you'll be sweating as much as I will. You'll see. So you got the lessons, you got the dictionary, you got the workout, you get a full-length piece of choreography, beginner-level choreography. It's got arm movements, it's got head movements, it's the full thing. It's one thing to do a combination. It's a whole other thing to do a full dance that's not just feet, that's arms and head. And it'll get you cardio too. Like, it'll wear you out. I know you're like, well, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, not that long. But when you're going, and again, in the dance, it's non-stop, you're going to feel it. So you get the choreography. Oh, and then you'll get, for the beginner level, you'll get all the music that we use in the lessons, which is really helpful. Because sometimes you're like, I want to practice that combination, but I don't want to get the video out and watch the video. I know the combination in my head. I just want to run it with music. Well, great. You'll have the music to do that. You can just put the music on and get dancing. So that is our large beginner deal. Now we have large deal for the advanced beginner level and the intermediate level and the intermediate advanced level. Now some of those have different things. They all have the dictionary and they all have the choreography. But there's some of the other things are different, like the music. The intermediate and the intermediate advanced don't have music. They have other options. Like the intermediate has a cool pullbacks video, and the intermediate advanced has a intermediate advanced special skills video. We talk about improvisation. We talk about stacking, which I do a ton of. For me, stacking is doing 2 different sounds at the same time. So I might do a toe here and a step here. That's stacking. I call it stacking. Other people call it a flam. I don't call it a flam because in drumming, flam means something very specific, and I was a drummer. Flam means one stick hits the drum before the other. So instead of da, you get bra, bra, right? So for me, I'm not going to call this a flam when they're happening at the same time. Now this, where the toe is hitting just before the heel, that I call a flam. Because you have one sound hitting just slightly before the other. Or I can even do a jump flam. You hear that bra, right?
for me, that would be a flam, and that I call stacking. So we cover stacking, and I'm trying to think. We cover one other thing. It's been so long since I made the video, I don't remember exactly what it is. There's something else in there. So you can go look it up on UnitedTaps.com. There's one other thing we covered in that special skills video. But they all have lessons. All the large deals have lessons. They all have a workout. They all have the dictionary. They all have the choreography. It's just some have music and some have like different other videos. And you can get all of that at UnitedTaps.com. All right. Thank you again for tap dancing with me. Hope you had a great time. I had fun tap dancing with you. I, of course, am Ron Howell from UnitedTaps.com, making you happier, healthier, and merrier through tap dance.